we are currently in what I would say is the perfect storm. We're currently in the perfect storm. And what happens in a storm like this is there are certain ships that when the storm comes will remain intact and be able to reach their destination. And there are other ships that will never be found again. I want you to let that sink in. There are other ships that, if they are on the surface, are completely unrecognizable. Completely unrecognizable. And even when the storm comes, likely, if they didn't sink during the storm, are in the process of sinking. Let that marinate for a moment.
So it's almost like the Bermuda Triangle effect.
100%. 100%. Like we're in what I would say is the perfect storm right now. So when you're in a storm or you know a storm is coming, you prepare. And what I'd like to do in the next hour is have a preparation conversation. Like, how do we begin to prepare? In some ways, consider that we're already running in the rain trying to cover things. Okay? It's already, the storm is here and we're batten down the hatches. You get where I'm going? And what I'm afraid is some folks, instead of storm prep, they're watching Netflix. Instead of hey, we need to do something, we're also so entertained that it's easy to kind of, just go inside and they won't start trying to do anything until water seeping into the room. It's literally coming into where they lay their head. They're like, oh, wait a second, something's got to be done. And at that point, the ship is lost. So how do we get ahead of this? And that's what I want to talk about in the upcoming hour. How do we get ahead of this, and how do we begin to future-proof our finances for the coming shift, or what you might say, the perfect financial storm? What I want to talk about is financial disruption. And I want to talk about future-proofing your finances as we navigate artificial intelligence's disruptive power. And there are a number of reasons I want to talk about this. One of the main reasons is because I just got off this tour. I've been traveling, I feel like all over the United States. Over the last few weeks, working with CEOs and leaders in Fortune 500 companies and speaking to CEOs and leaders in companies. And there's been a theme that throughout this, and the theme was taking place before, but it's more so than anything I've seen in the recent past. Like this last few weeks, let's say the month of June, and my interactions with leaders, there is one solid theme that these leaders are talking about, and that is the impact of artificial intelligence. The impact of artificial intelligence. Now, let me real quick, if you were like, oh, I thought he was going to talk about something else, I'll do something, let me do something else real quick, or I'm not going to listen to Linnell today, for real, pause. Because the reason these like Fortune 500 leaders, Fortune 1000 leaders who run multi-billion-dollar companies are talking about artificial intelligence is because they understand the impact that it's about to have on every living being on the planet, period. They get this. And if you believe that this is a show you can skip, that tells me how little you understand AI. Like, and you got to listen. You have to listen. The person who's like, oh, this is going to be a good topic, like, I already know you're going to listen, but I just want that person who's like, not my topic. Like, this is your topic because it's a coming for you. Like, whether you learn it or not, the disruption that it's going to cause is coming for you. Now, years ago, when I first got on WVON, and many of you who listen to me, back, I've been on the air now for over 11 years. So maybe in the first, 2 to 4 years that I was on the air, one of the things I talked about quite a bit was what I was really concerned about within our community. When I say our community, the African American community, quote unquote, black community. And that was the technical divide that I saw broadening. I saw it broadening. And it really concerned me because as technology advances, if we aren't keeping up, then what happens is it actually impedes our ability to keep up financially. Now, and I used to say, we got to figure this out. If you're not on social media, get on social media, not just to navigate social media, but learn how to use it as a tool. Learn how to use it to, push your business, to advertise, to all these different things, right? I was talking about it to nauseam. And some of you will call in and say, I don't like it. I'm not feeling it, which by the way, you could say that you have a right to your feelings. But how we feel doesn't change what's happening, folks. I want to be very clear about that. How you feel about artificial intelligence is not going to change the trajectory of how it has already transformed our lives and how it will continue to transform our lives. And so I really want us to take this topic seriously. And I would say take it as seriously as we took the topic the last time I was on the air, like how we're being poisoned part 2. Because I got a lot of emails from that, like, man, I can't believe it. It's like, so, okay, how we're being poisoned part 2. Now, how can you future-proof your finances? So think of this as we're going through the 4 pillars over time in terms of all the things that we should be thinking about as a community, in terms of our health and well-being, in terms of the health of our finances, and we'll get to the health of relationships, etc. But right now, we're talking money. I want to ask you all something real quick because just to prove how narratives are so powerful and how a shift in information can put someone ahead in a way that they otherwise wouldn't have been ahead. So let me ask one just really quick question, just popped into my mind. I'm gonna ask Titus and I'm gonna ask Ade here in the studio. Real simple question. Did John Deere invent the plow? Yes or no? Did John Deere invent the plow?
No.
Yeah.
Okay, Titus, you say no?
I say no.
Okay.
I was going to say no as well.
Okay, so now there are people in radio land right now like, what? So how did John Deere get his name on all this stuff then?
I would say some type of investment or patent.
Patent, yes. Okay, so he patented. Do you know the story
No.
of John Deere?
No.
All right, so this is the quick story of John Deere. John Deere happened to have a bit more information than the person that created the plow. Not a whole lot, just a bit. He had one piece of information that the gentleman who created the plow didn't have. Now, the gentleman who created the plow was an actual farmer. John Deere was a salesman. He's just moving around, and he saw this guy doing something interesting in his field that he hadn't seen before. And John Deere had this one piece of information that the farmer didn't have, and that was how to patent things. One piece of information. Now, let me ask you, in terms of how we can leverage AI for information, if you're using AI, Ide, and Titus, you aren't, how much further does that put Ide over you, Titus?
I would say tremendously.
Tremendous. So John Deere became John Deere from one little small piece of information. You guys get where I'm going?
Yeah.
The farmer was a farmer who, by the way, was incredibly innovative and created this, this plowing device that to this day is still, used now, of course, in machinery, but, not necessarily, like the same way he was doing it with an ox.
Yeah.
Right. But that same thing going into the ground is still used to this day. And John Deere and his estate, incredibly wealthy. One piece of information that John Deere had that this farmer didn't. Now, when there is a plethora of information available to you through generative AI, how can you see now, Titus, how Ade would have such an advantage over you?
Absolutely.
Now, let me ask you this question. If you all worked at the same company and Ade was using AI and Titus, you weren't, who is going to be the star?
I would say the person that's using the AI.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now, if I want to be really clear about this. So then, Titus, if you went into, if you found out he was using AI and you're just opposed to it and you went and told your boss, let's say I'm the boss, okay? You're like, Linnell, I see Ade using artificial intelligence in his work. What do you think, if I'm a fairly progressive leader, what do you think I'm going to say to you?
You're probably going to tell me to get on the train with it and try to use it myself because the whole company will be better if we all use it.
Okay, now let me ask you another question. So now, Titus, if you begin using artificial intelligence in your work, Ade is using artificial intelligence in his work, and let's say we had an open role. It used to be a team of 3, and now you all are using AI in your work. Do you think I'm going to have to hire that third person now?
No. You shouldn't have to because that's what the AI is for. It's helping advance without having to have the actual people there.
So who does that impact then?
Unfortunately, lower wage jobs.
Okay, lower wage jobs. What about the college graduate that might have wanted that position?
Yeah,
that too.
Yeah. Right? So now we're entering an economy where, let's be clear, folks are getting laid off. All right. As a matter of fact, there was one company that just laid off 15 technology company. Why is it escaping my mind? Go look it up. Technology company just laid off close to 15% of its staff so they could take that money and invest it in AI. They're like, we just, we don't want to get left behind. We don't have the money that's necessary to actually invest in AI, so we have to lay people off. And they were like, well, do you think you'll hire those people back? They're like, we don't know. What we do know is that we have to invest in generative AI so that we can keep up. And so if that means taking a hit in terms of productivity, right now within the organization, we're willing to do that. And so they did cuts across the board. I can't remember the name of the company. It just happened. It was in the news. And they were very vocal about it, about why they did. We are a technology company. This is what's happening. Okay. So then we think about finances. Well, one, the people who got cut, that's an immediate impact on their finances. Yeah. But what we haven't thought about are the current college students. We haven't thought about them. Yeah. I don't know if you remember 2008, people coming out of college. What happened to them? That was during economic downturn. We're running into something different here, though. So that impacted them. And as these companies get good at AI, are they going to keep the same number of staff? Okay. All right. And is it fair to say that generative AI is coming after particular industries across the board? Would you all say that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I haven't even shared the stats, but just drop one industry that both of you all believe, based on your knowledge of artificial intelligence, is probably doomed in the next 5 years.
I would say the fast food industry.
Okay, fast food.
Fast food.
Okay, what would you say, Ade?
Like the warehouses, and I don't know exactly.
Okay, so warehouses, manufacturing, etc. Okay, all right. Okay, both are on the list. I'm going to share the list at the top of the next hour. Both are on the list. Okay, now, who currently holds those kind of jobs? Who?
Yeah.
Like, who currently holds those kind of jobs? Like, who, when you walk into your fast food restaurant, who do you see behind the counter?
I would say majority of the time people that look like us.
People that look like you, right? Okay.
Younger people too. Yeah.
All right. And then manufacturing and warehousing, we all got a cousin that works at M&M's over there on a lot of our people now. Where is the Amazon one out south?
Yeah.
That big warehouse. A lot of us are making money over there now, right?
Yeah.
Okay. When it built it, it was like, oh my God, jobs are coming to the community.
Exactly.
A bunch of us got those jobs. Revenues coming into our homes for how long? Okay.
Yeah.
So let me say this, you all. By the way, go ahead and text your cousin him and be like, yo, because it's one of those kind of conversations. All right. Now let me ask you. Titus, Ide, y'all know me. Am I having this conversation to make people mad?
No.
No, I think you're being realistic.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm being realistic.
Yeah.
Like, why do you think on a Sunday morning I would bring this up as people are driving to church? Why would I do that? Like Titus, Ide, why do you think I would bring this up this beautiful June morning?
I would say because of the people need to be told about this information.
Yeah.
Why? Why do folks need to know? Why does our community in particular, even if we don't want to hear it, why do we need to listen to this?
Because we're being left behind.
Yeah, left behind, for sure.
Here's the other thing. Preparation. Like right now, we can actually do something about it. You get where I'm going? Like right now, and that's the conversation I want to begin having with you all. Like right now, we can actually do something about it. In the next 2 to 3 years, I'm not sure. And by the way, there's stats, and all of these are predictions and estimates and stuff like that. And so keep in mind, it's tough, right? But there are stats that basically say by 2025, 15% of the job market is going to be impacted by that. Like 15%, that means like a broad brush in 2 years, 15%, like there's a squeeze. And who would you all say feels the squeeze the most right now financially? Yeah. Now, let me give you an example, real life example of what I mean. So yesterday I flew in from New York. Like I said, I've been with leaders all week. I flew in from New York, and I got an Uber home. Oh, Uber. So let me tell you the conversation I had with my Uber driver, right? So he had a brand new 2024 Chevy Blazer EV. It's an electric vehicle, right? Now I walked up to it. I'm like, this is nice. Right? It's dope. It looked good. All that. I said, this is nice. And so I got in. I'm like, man, I like the truck. This is nice. And he started telling me, yeah, I just got it. I had a Malibu before this. And so we get into this conversation, right? This Malibu broke down. He took it back. He got a deal on this one. And he was like, yeah, man, I was paying 24% on my Malibu. The APR, 24%. All right, so this is an Uber driver. And he was like, but I did it because I have to work. He's been working for Uber for 8 years. In terms of his top income, he can make $2,000 a week. That ain't bad. All right. When you think about it, that's $8 to $10 grand a month. depending on if it's a 4-week or 5-week month. So that's solid, right? Now, you do those numbers, he's pulling close to 6 figures as an Uber driver, right? And some folks get in the back of an Uber and they, you be righteous, and that Uber driver making more than you. So like, let's be okay. Sometimes I be asking questions. Yeah. All right. So this guy is making close to 6 figures driving Uber. I said, well, man, how many hours you have to put in to make $2,000 a week? You're like 50 to 60. So he's driving, let's say 10 hours. I mean, some major hours. Okay. Then he started to tell me how Uber pays for his college. I'm like, yo, I didn't know Uber had a program. Yeah, you got to drive so much. You got, they got a point system. He's breaking all this down, how he's created. And then he says, yeah, because I got to get out the car. I'm going to school for information systems because I have to get out the car in the next 2 to 3 years because they won't need me anymore. He's very aware of this, right? Latinx brother. Very aware. He was like, so I worked on my credit. I actually was able to get this car at, 14%, which is still really high. Okay, it was high for an APR. Okay, but he worked on his credit, knocked it up 100 points. He's got the new vehicle. He's paying like $1,300 for a Chevy Blazer a month. But that's because of his credit, right? And again, our finances impact our finances. Yeah. All right? And this whole conversation I want to have with you all is about how AI is about to disrupt your finances. But anyway, so this guy, he's in school, he's using Uber to go to school, and he realizes that while he's made 6 figures driving Uber, that won't be available to him in the next 2 to 3 years. He gets it. He gets it. And I said, well, what do you mean? Because I'll act stupid sometimes, right? What do you mean you won't be able to drive? Why won't you drive in 2 to 3 years? He was like, oh, man, like this car, he starts telling me all the things that the car can do already. Right? Stay in its own lane, stop on demand. It's got artificial intelligence that if somebody jumps in front of him, the vehicle stops. If somebody's going really fast behind him, it comes off the brakes. Unless he's in an intersection, it can read the red lights and green lights. Like he's like breaking it all down to everything that the car can do. So the car can almost drive better than him, but it just gives him autonomy for now. Listen to me, for now. He has autonomy, okay? I guarantee you in the next 2 to 3 years that when you get into a 2025 or 2026, there'll be a feature where the car can co-pilot with you. So you won't have full autonomy anymore. You will be driving 50% of the time. Like, make a right turn, whatever. You might have to just knock the steering wheel. Like, mark my word. Now, I've done this before. Like, on weird stuff. Like, I remember, like, those of you who listen to me, I'll be making these predictions. Folks like, Linnell's nuts. Like, I remember when I said that luxury watches had to enter the smartwatch game. And somebody called me, they're like, a Rolex is a Rolex, bro. It would never happen. And now, luxury watches are in the smartwatch game, right? I'm like, you got to play. You got to play ball. Okay, so this man realizes that a 6-figure job is going away. So he's going to school. But I'm scared. I'm scared for some of us. Because, like, we're not thinking like that. We're not, like, what I noticed with this gentleman is he's able to look at the signs and the trends and be like, oh, I need to adjust. Right? So he dropped me off at home. Like, man, thank you so much. It was a phenomenal conversation. But I was thinking about that. Like, how many million Uber drivers that's how I got to the airport in New York from the hotel, right? By the way, the brother, I'm not from New York, but he took the wrong direction. I got on a plane, but I'm like, man, it took longer than it should have, man. Because he was avoiding tolls, that's why. Right? But there'll come a time where I could be like, as a customer, direct him. You know where I'm going? Through the artificial intelligence built in the app. Where am I going with this? Like, that's just one example. So let me frame this up before we go into the top of the hour. Like, I really want to frame this up. So last night, because we're having an artificial intelligence conversation, I was using Gemini and Chat GPT. Both you guys familiar with these?
Yeah. Yes.
All right, let me ask you, how much do you use either of the two, ChatGPT or Gemini?
I'll say the chat a little bit more.
Yeah,
Okay.
same.
Same. All right. Okay. Chat a little bit more, which is, I mean, first to market always wins. I mean, that's kind of how it go. Coca-Cola, Pepsi. You know. What I'm saying? All right. Okay. Doesn't make one better than the other. All right. Now, give me an example of what you guys use artificial intelligence for.
I would say for here, looking up information, booking the guest here on VON, more so of that nature, trying to organizational skills as far as the FCC documents, things of that nature, for sure.
Okay. All right. What about you, Ade?
Aside from work with you, also use it for some questions regarding my industry and stuff like that, and what's in the future. So
okay.
Yeah,
all right.
yeah,
So you're
see
using
what-
it to forecast and,
Yeah.
and think about
Just
what's
to see.
happening next.
Exactly.
All right, in your role. Okay, so both of you all are using generative AI in some capacity. All right, now for people who aren't really familiar with artificial intelligence, let me be clear. Like, we've been living in a world of artificial intelligence for quite some time. What distinctly is different is the generative portion. And what generative means is that the artificial intelligence can actually think on top of itself. Like, it can build theory and things like that. And here's the other part. In the last 3 years, artificial intelligence inventors have broken all 3 of the rules that they said they wouldn't break. There are 3 rules in artificial intelligence that they said they should never break, and they've broken them. The first is generative artificial intelligence should not have full access to the internet. Well, that has happened. Okay? And I'm sharing this with you all for a reason, because they understood how fast things can move. All right? The second one is that generative AI should not be able to communicate with other AI and write code. Okay? Well, that rule is broken too. All right? And the third rule is, oh man, it just slipped my mind what the third rule is. Do me a favor and look up the 3 rules of AI, and tell me that third rule. But we'll come up to it again. But that third rule is also really interesting in terms of, but all 3 of these rules have been broken and they realized they've broken them. They kind of just blew it out the water, partly because, human beings are always interested and curious about, if we do this, then what, right? Which, don't press that button. If I say that to my 2-year-old daughter, her nature is to do what? Press the button. And as adults, we're no different. Okay. So let me frame this up. Let me frame this up in the best way that I know how. Again, this is an incredibly important conversation. So when you look at the eras that we've gone through as human beings, the first era was the Stone Age. And that had 3, particular periods within the Stone Age. And then after that, you had the Bronze Age. And when we look at the Bronze Age lasted about 2,100 years or so. And then from the Bronze Age, we went to the Iron Age. And that lasted about 1,700 years. So we see it we see the number of years drop down a little bit. And the Iron Age is like the Roman Empire, stuff like that. The fall of the Roman Empire put us into what is called the Middle Ages. Or they call it, medieval, pre-medieval, medieval, whatever you may call it. And the Middle Ages, which is, 3 different ages, 3 different eras, lasted about 1,000 years. So we went from 2,100 Bronze Age, 1,700 Iron Age, 1,000 years Middle Age, and then we went into the early modern period. And this is, like, when you think about the early modern period, this is where we're beginning to come out of the Middle Ages. We're exploring, or Europeans are exploring, and that lasted about 300 years, which went right up to the early, let's say, mid-1800s or so, where you had the Industrial Revolution. And the Industrial Revolution, you know, you look at different approximations, but 150 to 200 years, all right? All the way up to about 1990, which then we entered into this information age, all right? I believe as of 2023, the information age is over. I did a bunch of research. Everybody is speculative, like nobody's saying information age is over. What I mean, let me be very clear with those of you listening. What I mean about an age or a period being over is that we've have, in terms of our focus and movement, have generally moved to a different era, you know, for the most part. So when you think about the Industrial Revolution, do we still have manufacturing, all the things that came from the Industrial Revolution? Absolutely. However, the impact that the information age or the digital age has had on that is like change how we manufacture. You get what I'm going? So that's why we can say we are in the information age. Well, now we're still in the information age. That era still is in existence, but what's having an impact on our information? Artificial intelligence, right? I mean, at a level that we've never seen in terms of misinformation, disinformation. By the way, the distinction between the two is disinformation is purposeful and misinformation is mistaken, right? So disinformation is when I actually look to mislead you, typically using information that's online, right? So then that's disinformation. Like, you know, if I were misleading people with stats and things like that, you know, because I manipulated them, that would be disinformation. Whereas if I say, you know, the information age started in 1990 and it really started in 1980, that would be misinformation. You see the difference? That's misinformation, like it was just a mistake of some sort. Okay. I didn't try to mislead you. It's like, and it doesn't have a whole lot of consequence either. That's misinformation. Disinformation, there's consequences. All right. So then I asked Gemini and ChatGPT, I was like, okay, here are these errors. And when you look at these errors, I want you to assume, because neither one of them would assume that the information age was over. Like they were like, nah, we can't do that, blah, 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 you know, which is, you know, a built-in like buffer for artificial intelligence if you use it. We've all gotten those responses, right? It's like, I can't make that speculation, right? It's like, all right. So I want you to, and by the way, let me say this for those of us who use AI as of today. One of the best things you can learn is what is called prompt engineering. Write that down. One of the best things that you can learn, what makes AI different from me versus you, Titus, versus you, Ade, if we're all using AI, is which one of us are the best prompt engineers. Does that make sense? And a prompt is what I put into the system in terms of the feedback I want. And the better I am at prompting artificial intelligence, the better I am with artificial intelligence, period. Which means all three of us could be using it, and one of us could be like light years ahead of the other two because of our ability to prompt the artificial intelligence. Okay. So I asked it, I said, all right, let's assume we're in a new age. What would that age be? And how long would this particular age last? And so both Gemini and ChatGPT agreed that we are in a new, like, digital era of artificial intelligence, automation, and robotics. They were like, when I said it ended in 2023, if there was something that started now, what would it be? Both of them said, well, if you are speculating that it's ended, right, then we would say that this is next. But they don't want to say that's what's going on right now, basically, right? So I want to be very clear. They're not saying it, I am, right? And by the way, remember, they're programmed to say and not say certain things, okay? I'm telling you, the information age is over. We are in a new rendition of the digital age, which is now artificial intelligence, automation, and robotics. And if you're not playing that game, your finances are not future-proofed. One of the conversations I'm having in corporate America is everybody's getting squeezed. If you feel a squeeze, you're not the only one, right? If your revenue's $50,000 a year, you feel a squeeze. If your revenue's, $75,000, $80,000 a year, you're feeling the squeeze. If your revenue's $100,000, $120,000, $150,000 a year, you're feeling the squeeze. If you made $250,000 last year, you're feeling the squeeze. If you made $500,000 or more last year, you're feeling the squeeze. If you generated, let's say $800,000 to $1.2 million last year, you're feeling a squeeze. If you generated $1 billion last year, you're feeling a squeeze. You get my point? Like if you generated $5 billion last year as an organization, you're feeling the squeeze. Everybody's feeling the squeeze. Why? Well, part of it's the economic cycle of inflation. Okay? So, and the reason I'm bringing this up is because we are currently in what I would say is the perfect storm. We're currently in the perfect storm. And what happens in a storm like this is there are certain ships that when the storm calms will remain intact and be able to reach their destination. And there are other ships that will never be found again. I want you to let that sink in. There are other ships that, if they are on the surface, are completely unrecognizable. Completely unrecognizable. And even when the storm calms, likely, if they didn't sink during the storm, are in the process of sinking. Let that marinate for a moment.
So it's almost like the Bermuda Triangle effect.
100%. 100%. Like we're in what I would say is the perfect storm right now. So when you're in a storm or a storm is coming, you prepare. And what I'd like to do in the next hour is have a preparation conversation. Like, how do we begin to prepare? In some ways, consider that we're already running in the rain trying to cover things. Okay? It's already, the storm is here and we're batten down the hatches. You get where I'm going? And what I'm afraid is some folks, instead of storm prep, they're watching Netflix. Instead of hey, we need to do something, we're also so entertained that it's easy to kind of, just go inside and they won't start trying to do anything until water seeping into the room. It's literally coming into where they lay their head. They're like, oh, wait a second, something's got to be done. And at that point, the ship is lost. So how do we get ahead of this? And that's what I want to talk about in the upcoming hour. How do we get ahead of this, and how do we begin to future-proof our finances for the coming shift, or what you might say, the perfect financial storm? That's what I want to talk about. And I want to talk about it from an empowering state, not disempowering, but how can we take personal responsibility and really begin to address and prepare for what is coming next. I did some research, and what I want to cover now is the share of workers who are most exposed to AI in their jobs. And what this is a percentage of U.S. workers employed in jobs that are most exposed to AI in 2022. When I say exposed, this is the level of exposure that their job has in a negative way, right? So, the safety, your industry, your job, or this group of people is exposed to the impact of AI, is what this means, okay? Across the board, what it said is, all workers, about 19% of all workers, there's going to be an impact. So let's put this in perspective. tomorrow morning when you get on, like if you take the bus to work or you get on the train, whatever it is you may do, or let's just, even if you drive, like for every 100 vehicles with one driver in the car, like in the next 3 to 5 years, you could say 20 of them won't be there because they'll be out the game, right? So on the bus, let's say there's 50 people, 10 of them won't be on the bus because they're out the game. I really want us to put this in, and a lot of times we say that won't be me, but it's like those are high numbers. Those are very, very high numbers, okay? If you're on a train and within 2 cars, there's 100 folks, you can take 10 people out of both cars and say they ain't commuting nowhere no more because their job is now, there's been exposure, okay? So that's what we're looking at. And I'm saying in the next 2 to 3 years because there's research that's saying by 2025, you all. When is 2025?
Next year.
All right, now to put this in perspective, if you were using ChatGPT last year this time, well, when did you all begin using artificial intelligence in your work? ChatGPT was the first, so when did you start
Last
using
year, for
ChatGPT,
sure.
Titus?
I would say last year for me.
And then you as well, Ide.
Like at the end of last year.
End of last year?
Yeah.
Okay. And so end of last year. What was the time frame for you, Titus?
Like March of last year?
So March of last year?
Yeah.
Okay, March of last year. That's about the same time for me when I started. Okay. Would you say that it is significantly different in terms of its capabilities since last year?
Yes, I would. Well, not really. Not really. I would. It's certain changes, but in the things I got used to, but not really. I would say that it's kind of floating where I'm at so far.
Okay, got you. What version are you using?
I don't know. I don't know what software the version it is number.
3.5?
I think so.
Okay. Are you using the unpaid or paid version?
The paid version.
The paid version. So you're using 4.0 then?
What? Yes, then.
Okay. So let's be clear about this. There is a vast difference in capability between 3.5 and 4.0. Vast. All right. So the free version 3.5. And by the way, this is not to discourage anybody who's using the free version. Like, use the free version. Right? It's like, but there's a vast difference in the capability of 3.5 versus 4.0. Okay. You started at the end of last year. Have you noticed a difference in its capability since the end of last year to now, mid-2024?
Mid-2024. I would say yeah.
In what ways?
I guess some of its capabilities, I haven't really used it to the extent that I probably should be, but from what I've done, it seemed like the questions I ask it can answer them more elaborately.
Okay, got you. It can answer them more elaborately.
Yeah,
and
I've
detail.
used the free version. I never used 4.0, so
okay, got you. So you're using 3.5.
Yeah,
got you. Which is, by the way, upgraded from 3.0 from last year. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So then here's the other place that it exposes folks, right? 17% of men are exposed in contrast to 20% of women. Now, when I say this level of exposure, like one of the things that I've noticed is like the difference in how my wife uses it versus I use it, right? Where she might use it to answer household questions. So then if it's answering household questions, like more than likely that's going to be a female entrepreneur, a female-owned business, right? It's so I can see why there's more women exposed than men because they're asking different questions. In terms of ethnicity, it says 20% of whites. This is the Pew Research Center, by the way. 15% of blacks, 13% of Hispanics, 24% of Asians. Asians, by far, will be more, based on the research, will be more impacted by artificial intelligence than any other group. Now, when we get into the top 10, I'm going to come back to this and tell you why. Okay? When we get into the top 10. Then you have Native Americans and then other. Native Americans, 16%, and then other races, 18%. But overall, 19% African Americans 15%, second to the bottom against Hispanics. Now, we might say, and what I would say to that is, well, it might be because of where we play economically already. You get where I'm going? Because what is the highest earning group in the United States of America? Do anybody know? Asian Americans.
No.
All right. So would it make sense why they have the most exposure? Okay. All right, cool. Okay. Now get this for my educated folks. If you have less than a high school education, the impact and exposure is only 3%, which we kind of get, right? Because again, the more you have, the more exposed you are, is what this is basically saying. And so as you go up in education, so does your level of exposure to the disruption of AI. So then you go to high school grads, 12%. Some college, 19%. A bachelor's or more, 27%. So now this is interesting because the rules have been that you should go to college and get educated. And that you should go in debt to get your education. And now the data around how AI is changing the game is also saying that for those of you who have the most educational debt, you're also the most exposed. Whew. Now, what are the implications of that? And by the way, I'm putting this out here, so I really want us to just really start to kind of to wrap our minds around what's happening, because where I think some of us would think intuitively that artificial intelligence is coming for the poor folk, what I'm telling you is not. It's actually coming for the middle class. It's coming for the middle class. It's coming for people who right now feel some level of stability. It might not be the stability you want, but you feel some level of stability, right? Roof over your head, car, moving around. You know, you might be strapped. And this is where it's scary, because already the middle class is squeezed, right? So you're squeezed by college loans, all these different things. And now what I'm sharing with you is the biggest financial disruption is aiming at the middle class that really doesn't have much more room to squeeze. Okay? Now let's continue. And I see the phone calls. I'm gonna come to that in a second. All right. So then we have really the list of industries that are the most likely to be significantly disrupted by AI and robotics by 2030. So this right here is giving us 6 years. Well, not even, like 5.5, if you really think about it. 5.5 years. And I'm going to tell you personally, I believe that this is graceful. I believe it's going to happen in the next 3. Like, this is Linnell talking, right? The data here says 2030, next 5.5. I'm saying, based on how fast I see this moving, really we got 3 years. So like you got until about 2020, end of 2026, early 2027, before these things really begin to happen. Let me say this. You all remember when I talked about the UPS situation? You recall that? And by the way, I got a bunch of emails from UPS workers who were upset with me, right? Because what I said was, you won for now. So if you're not aware of the UPS situation, what basically happened is that UPS workers were about to go on strike, and they wanted to set new terms with UPS around pay. And this was happening basically towards the beginning of the fourth quarter of last year. So right before we went into the holidays. The timing was phenomenal for the workers in terms of this. UPS couldn't afford, I'm sure they ran the numbers, they couldn't afford for them to strike at that time. It probably would have been devastating to the company. And so they acquiesced and they approved the new, basically the new terms for the workers. And what that meant is that the average UPS worker is now making over 6 figures a year. Yay. Okay. Now, I don't say that facetiously as if I'm not happy for them. But what I said right behind that was, you all do know that now you woke up UPS. And UPS leadership never wants to be in a situation like that with human beings in the fourth quarter of a holiday year. And so they're already doing the work that they're going to need to do to begin automating many of the roles that human beings hold. I said that, okay? And I was saying it because I was like, if you're about to make six figures, then I would say the money that you're making over and beyond what you used to make should be invested in your education for a new AI future. So that way, when UPS makes their move, you've already made yours, right? Because let's be clear. I mean, am I ridiculous to think that UPS is going to counter move them?
I would say no, because I mean it's the way that the business, like you said, how it works. They were caught in a predicament that they shouldn't been in, and they don't ever want to feel that type of pressure again. So it only makes sense that you try to stay one move ahead.
100%. And most UPS workers are what we would call the upper middle class, right? They're making $90,000 to $120,000 a year. Most of the folks we know that drive UPS have a decent house in a decent suburb, driving a decent car. Am I right? I mean, you like, yo, man, we going down to Miami. And be like, oh, yeah, like I can take some time off and go with you. They can roll, right? Am I right? They got money. Okay. What do you think the impact of automation at UPS is going to be on these people? It's going to be devastating if they don't plan for it. Okay? And this is like, I always say it, like, if we talk about best life includes goal setting. So you can actually make the moves that you need to make. So when it happens, you've already made your pivot. Spin move, right? That's the idea. That's the idea. That's why we're having this conversation.
Lately, AI's been really coming at through all my little social media ports, talking about what they can do now, that they can book you and get you in the house and all this stuff for a fraction of the cost. Mm-hmm. And I've been hesitant to even deal with it because now Thumbtack has got so serious about the business that they sending you. It's like I'm working for Thumbtack now. So you think AI it would be something to make a shift on appointments now?
100%, bro. I would start playing with it, figuring out which platform works the best for you. I would start doing that right now. 100%.
All right.
100%. And I would say even dedicate about 20% of your time. 20% might be like, that's all your strategic time. But a portion of your strategic time should be spent using artificial intelligence. And I like to use the 80-20 rule. So 20% of my time is spent on strategy, 80% is on implementation. And so now how I'm using artificial intelligence is to support me in my strategy, right? So now it might even write some of my goal statements and things like that. Or hey, take this and create my milestones. What action plans would you say I should have based on these milestones? And by when do you think I should deliver it, right? I could do that in AI. So I'm using AI in my strategic work, right? And then of course I'll manipulate and say I don't want to do that. Then I, put it on my time, on my terms. But then even the implementation of the work, I'm using artificial intelligence as well. And so to you, I would say you should be following a very similar approach, where you're doing your work, with the support of AI. By the way, making sure you review it all, because artificial intelligence hallucinates and probably always will. Right? So doing that, but then at the same time, strategically playing with different platforms to see the one that produces the most revenue. Because here's the thing, as Al begins to do that, his revenue is going to increase, which means what happens? Someone else's revenue what? Decreases. This is what I'm talking about. So let's go into the top 10. So here's a list of industries that are likely to be significantly disrupted by AI and robotics by 2030. Number 10 surprised me, by the way. Number 10 really surprised me. Maybe should we go from backwards to forwards? 10 to 1 or 1 to 10? What do y'all
10 to
say?
1.
Backwards.
10 to 1?
Yeah,
Let's
yeah.
go. All right. So number 10 surprised me. Legal services. Wrap your mind around that. Legal services is number 10 on the
What do
list.
you always need, like a trial lawyer or anything like that? Some type of
Well,
prosecution?
so what it pointed to is that lawyers, proven lawyers and judges are fairly untouchable. Because you'll need somebody to show up in court, blah, 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 that type of thing. However, junior lawyers. Now, what is a junior lawyer?
That's one of the lawyers that work under the partners. Like, for instance, like you got Verdoliak and Law. Verdoliak is the face, and then there's lawyers that work under him.
Right. The newest junior lawyer just graduated from law school. The newest, right? And they're looking for a firm. And how much debt does a junior lawyer have? Think about that.
Let's say you average 200,000.
Easy.
Easy, yeah.
Easy. You get where I'm going? And they're looking to come out and make about 110, on, maybe 150 on the high end if you're Ivy League. When I saw this, it blew my mind because I'm like, if in 2020 I was like, I'm gonna be a lawyer, and now I'm graduating from law school. Like, if I'm not Ivy League or I don't have a connection, I could be looking for a job indefinitely. Already. Now, maybe there's an entrepreneur that might bring me in, but then, if it's entrepreneurial, I'm probably not going to be making six figures. I'm going to be more like 70, 80. And then what I would say to a person looking for it, like, go with the entrepreneur. Like, get the job. Like, get the experience. Like, go. Some of them probably going to hold out. But if you're listening to me and you're, like, in this situation right now, like, you're not getting responses you thought you would, like, find the entrepreneur who has the small office and work for them. They're like, well, I can't pay you like the big firms. That's okay, sir. I'm just happy to be here learning from you so you can go from junior lawyer to experienced lawyer. Like, because otherwise, you get where I'm going?
I get it now.
You get where I'm
That's
going?
smart. That's
Yeah.
smart because now you're building a company so you can become. Okay.
Yeah, so you can become, but the entry for, like, think about that, for someone who does that much schooling in the future. Now, why is this? Because I can actually ask ChatGPT a lot of my law questions. Right? And then the other part of it is paralegals.
Yeah.
The senior attorney who used to ask a paralegal to maybe summarize something can now ask AI to do it. That blew me away. Okay, that's number 10, you guys. Number 9, construction. Construction. So robotics and automation are increasingly being used in construction, which could impact jobs in this industry. And not like, think about this, right? Remember when we were like this, not even when we were growing up, I would say just about maybe 5 years ago, you could be driving down the street and you would see a man with a jackhammer, right? Bah, 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 bah.
Yeah.
Have you seen that in the last couple of years?
Yes, but very sparse.
You
Very
seen it?
sporadically.
A man with a jackhammer?
Yes, but very sporadically.
Really? I haven't.
I haven't.
Have you?
No.
I haven't. But think about that, right? That was a common sight. Where you be driving past, you see the man with the jet, and other guys standing around. I'm like, da, da, da. And they're taking turns, by the way, because of the impact it has on the body. There's equipment for that now. You just roll it up there, set it up, hit the button, it does it, pull it back, done. It's not a man's job for the most part anymore, right? So here's a job that, by the way, many, I can remember uncles and stuff like that who are construction workers who made great money, that it's just not going to be as prevalent and there won't be as much for. Okay. Number 8, customer service. Now, this is already, I built my career, the first 12 years of my time in corporate America was running customer service operations at a global level. And in order for us to have certain service levels, we needed to have so many butts and seats, is what we used to say, okay? So if we wanted to have an 80% service level, answer calls within 60 seconds of the time that they picked up, then we need to have X amount of people. And we ran the calculations that way. When I was leaving that industry, AI was already coming in. Okay, I left that industry like in 2012. So then AI came in. How many of you have made a phone call? This happened to me with American Airlines where it said, we currently have a queue of 20 minutes. Let us call you back. That happened to you before?
Yeah.
Please give your phone, your name, your number, preferred number, and then you say your name. And then when they call you back, you hear yourself say your name.
Yeah.
Right? That's all artificial intelligence. That means that they were able to cut staff in the call center likely by 20%. Now, call center staffing, like in the past, an individual who worked in a call center was making about, $20, $25 an hour. And that was 10 plus years ago. So, like if you look at it now, in order to keep somebody in, they got to be making 30 something dollars. 30. It's a decent job. So, you might, the person, and I'm saying this to you all because the person that you're talking to on the phone, like that you actually get to, they're making a decent living.
Yeah.
You get where I'm going? There are going to be fewer of them making that living in the future. So if you have like, and this is, sometimes we have these kind of jobs like, I hate this job. I got to be there at this time. I miss weekend picnics, things like that. It's like, if I were you, I would be one of the top folks in the call center. You making $84,000 a year, $30 an hour. Yeah. You might want to take that seriously and be the best. Yeah. You get where I'm going? If they ask you to start using a chat bot too, like, oh my God, they want me to do all this stuff. Like, okay, sir, how do I use the chat bot, sir? You get where I'm going? Like, we got to shift our perspective on what's happening here. All of us, I don't know about you guys, I prefer to talk to humans.
Yeah.
But I also know that there's a certain amount of AI I have to get through in order to get to a human, because they need to qualify me, they need to verify me, they need to do all those things. And I'm okay with AI verifying who I am. I'm okay with that. I've grown accustomed to it. That used to be a human being. Let's be clear. Okay? All right, so that's number 8. Number 7 is agriculture. Now I could have, instead of hiring someone to fly over my field, I could find someone who has drones, and the drones can fly over my field. Sir, I can cut your, the rate of, the fertilization, pesticides, whatever it is by, by 25%, and my drones do all the work. Yeah. So now you get where I'm going, we're getting to that point. AI-powered technologies are changing landscaping of agriculture, and again, think about this. Like, that is something that for centuries has been manual. For centuries. It actually will be a thing to pick up a box of cherries and it says hand-picked. Because otherwise, it's, most of it's going to be robot picked in the future. Right? Now, most of us aren't in agriculture anymore. Now, what this made me think is, like, this is how I think about things. Like, oh, I could own a farm. I could legit own a farm now. So that's the other way I want us to be thinking about this, because I would never want to do the manual labor of a farmer. But if I could automate it all, then maybe I could be a farmer. You guys get where I'm going? Like, and this is how we should be thinking about some of this. Okay. Number 6, the financial industry. Yeah.
Well, that does make sense now, because with most of the tellers being gone out of banks now, and everything is with the kiosk at the ATM machines, and they can count your money and do things of that nature. That makes sense. That makes sense.
Like, walk into a bank now. In my neighborhood, I feel like they're staff heavy because of the generation. Like, I live in a neighborhood where the majority of the generation are baby boomers. Right, and the generation, they ain't doing none of that, and so they even have a greeter. I was like, they got a greeter at this Chase? I'm like, wow. But then when you see who's walking in, like that Chase is bringing in some dough. You know what I'm saying? So they can afford a greeter, right? and then they have, like maybe 3 to 4 tellers every morning. You're like, that's a lot of tellers. Now, if I walk into a Chase in a different neighborhood, it's 2 people, and the manager's roaming. And they're pointing you towards the ATM. Sir, you can do that. Like, I literally, before I went on an international trip, I was like, hey, I need to get a few $1,000s in cash. And she's like, sir, you can use that for this in the future. And it'll give you all $100 bills. Because I was like, I need all clean $100 bills. And they will give you. She was like, so don't come up here no more. Basically. You know what I'm saying? She didn't say that, but that's what she was saying. Like, and it was 2 people and a manager roaming in a whole branch. All right. So that's an example of how AI. But here's the other part. Bookkeepers. So really now, and like my wife and I, we run multiple businesses. We could really use an artificial intelligence platform to take a look at our books and to categorize things. And then all we got to do is just kind of go through and say, oh no, but actually having a bookkeeper, and then artificial intelligence can say, here's your write-offs, right, based on your spend. And so it could do something that in the past I gave to another human being. If you're a bookkeeper, how I would do it is I would actually learn all the AI and then get more clients than I had before and lower my prices. So, and then I would actually advertise that I'm an AI bookkeeper. Like, hey, I use AI to manage, so you don't have to. You don't have to find an AI platform because I use AI to handle it. And by the way, AI is going to cost you about $50 a month. But to have a human being that's working with AI is going to cost you $150 a month. What do you think about that, sir? And I'm the kind of guy I'd be like, I like that. Because I want to be in conversations with who? A human being, right? Now, if you're a bookkeeper and you just keep doing it the same way you're doing it, and now I got to have these 30-minute meetings with you, and you're charging me, $500, $750 a month, I'm probably going to leave you for the other person. Eventually. Why? Because everybody's being squeezed. Okay? So this is what's going on in the financial industry. By the way, people are using AI for trading. I've asked AI, like, hey, based on what's happening with cryptocurrency, what's your prediction in terms of, the next few months, how I should invest? And it'd be like, well, wow, I can't do this and this and that. What my speculations are, right? But it gives me, directionally, very quickly, I can get trading analysis or trading, information guesstimates that before weren't available and likely more reliable than some human beings. Number 5, this one hit me too. Healthcare. So AI-powered diagnostics. And let me ask you this, right? With the level of human error, like, if I'm not mistaken, on the list of the top 10 reasons people die, human error is definitely one of the top 10. But I think it's like number 3. So then, me knowing that, would I prefer for AI to be involved in my diagnostics, in my medical care, or for a human being to be involved? And if there's a nurse taking care of me, would I want AI to be double checking what she does or not? You get where I'm going?
Oh, I definitely agree. I mean, they even got now, since my car accident, they got a machine now that automatically takes your vitals now, so you don't have to the needles to draw your blood and the wrap on your the blood pressure machine to wrap on your arm. They just put your hand on some type of scanner. Mm-hmm. AI does the rest.
Wow.
Back in what year was that? Pam and I had just got together. I think 2013. I got a robotic surgery. My laser eye surgery. It was a robot. And I remember the eye surgeon, who, by the way, already had the machinery, right? So he's killing it above the other guy. He was like, hey, the reason I can do this is because we have state-of-the-art robotics. that's going to do this. It's already it took the shape of my eye. The robot then came, it shot the leg, but I was under a complete robotic arm when this went down, when I got my LASIK eye surgery. And do you think I preferred the robot or the doctor?
I'm going to go to robot for sure.
Yeah.
The robot has a steady hand.
Yeah.
You get where I'm going? And so it was like, no, I'm like, oh, you use a robot? I feel like my heart rate dropped. Oh, okay. And he walked in, he showed me the robotic system, showed me the arm on the system. He's like, you're going to be looking up at this, the laser's going to come down, you're going to smell some smoke. That's your, cornea getting burned off. It's crazy. It's kind of crazy when you think about it, right? But it was robotics in healthcare back then, right? So then you think about surgery in the future. As long as the robot has been, what do you call that? They had to go through the allocation system or whatever, As long as it's going through all of its checks and balances, if you say, hey, you want Dr. Titus on you or the robot, I'm going to be like, well, what's up with that robot? Yeah. Right? Because most of us understand that the kind of calculations that these things can make, so like the preference becomes robotics towards the future, in healthcare in particular. Telemedicine has already transformed the healthcare industry, and it's beginning to change the nature of many of the jobs. So healthcare, big time. And I'm sharing this because, think about how nursing has always been, one of those areas, if you become a nurse, I remember I dated a girl who was in nursing school, and I was like, oh, you got potential. Sis gonna make money one day, right? And it was like, oh, okay, you in nursing school? Think about it. You in nursing school? Now, we also know that nurses have been basically in the healthcare industry, they can't get enough. So what do you think the healthcare industry is already doing? Yeah. So then when you look at Rain, I doubt that my daughter ever goes to school for nursing, because it's going to be a kind of like a tighter industry. You won't need as many. And I wouldn't tell her to go to school for nursing because I'm not sure if human beings will be nurses by the time she's of age, which is crazy. Now, I think there'll always be a human element, but almost every nurse will likely be in some way linked to some level of artificial intelligence. It's going to be a human artificial intelligent job. Mark my words. So you'll get the human touch, but she'll be jacked into some type of artificial intelligence to make sure that, Mr. Ade, I see you here, blah, 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 the tablet's going, everything. She's reading off, exactly what's going on for you, because she's going to be working with so many patients on that floor. Okay. I hope we're getting this. Okay. Let's go to number 4. Hospitality. The hospitality industry. Now, in the hotels I'm staying in now, almost all of them say, unless you request us to come in, we're going to go every other day. So they've already cut back from that perspective, right? Why? Because the hospitality industry has been squeezed. Right? But now you're telling me that when there's a human being in my room, let's think about this, right? That human being is a human, which means I put things in a safe. And you assume trustworthiness. But if there was a hotel where a robot came and cleaned your room, which would you prefer?
The robot for sure.
Robot, yeah.
Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? And by the way, how do you know? The robot probably can make the bed better, and it won't forget. When I was in New York, the person who cleaned my room forgot to put another glass down in the room. Right? I had to call. Hey, I need a glass for my hot water in the morning. Blah blah blah. She forgot to put the glasses down. The robot won't miss. And this is where we're. Mark my word, in the next 2 to 3 years, if you're in a 5-star hotel, you're going to see a robot in the hallway. And it's not going to look like a walking robot, right? But it's going to be, something that's moving, automated in some kind of way that's, either dropping things at rooms, checking rooms. We're moving there. Okay. Number 3 is retail. Already, e-commerce is like completely driven by artificial intelligence, whether it's, chat bots. You go on a website, they can find you. Sir, why didn't you leave things in your cart? You're like, how you get my email address? Yeah. Like, I didn't leave my email address on that website. They're using geo technology to track you down, right? Your IP address, all those different things. That's all artificial intelligence. AI-powered customer service solutions will basically lead to job losses. That used to be people. So a lot of these retail customer service roles, like already you can go into a Target, you can go into most of these places, and what's the fastest way to get in and out? To go through the line with the human being, or to go through the automated AI checkout?
AI checkout.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. So when I'm rushing or moving fast, which is almost always in a store, right? You're like, because I don't want to be in there long. Right. That's not where I want to spend my time. And I mean, very seldom am I having interactions with human beings anymore. Like, think about that. Yeah. And it's at Costco, I mean, you name it. It's like, well, it's faster in this line. And then there's like one person that's basically checking everything. Boom, boom, boom. For like 6 registers. That used to be 6 people. Okay. So that's retail. Number 2 is manufacturing. And I got clients who are like executives in automotive industry, executives in different industries. And I've asked them about, like, hey, in terms of the number of people that work for you in contrast, like in 10 years ago in contrast to now, they're like, oh, it's like 75% different. 70, like, think about that. Where you used to have people on the line, and now they're robots on the line. And the people on the line are basically in charge of the robots. So that means that before, to be on the line, maybe I have to have a certain skill set, mechanical skill set. And now, if I'm on the line, I have an engineering skill set, a robotic engineering skill set. Completely different. Yeah. And this is happening automotive, electronics, textiles, you name it, manufacturing. It's, nobody's taking a shirt unless it's a mom and pop print shop. Nobody's taking a shirt and actually, back in the day, you see the steam come up. Be like, here's your shirt, sir. Okay, you'll have the rest of your orders next week because they got to do 50 of them. Yeah. Now they like, you'll have it tomorrow. Right? Because the shirts are going through this thing. Choop, 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 choop. Come out, boom. You can pick it up tomorrow, sir. Might even be able to pick it up tonight if you want to come back. Okay? So manufacturing's changed. We know that. And then number 1, transportation. Number 1 is transportation. They haven't fully figured out autonomous vehicles yet. But it's here.
So it's coming.
No, it's here.
You seen
it's here.
The self-driving cars and stuff? I've seen a few of them downtown.
Oh, in San Francisco, they're all over the place.
Oh, wow.
When I'm in San Francisco, you see self-driving cars. They got the cameras on top and all that, and they're just moving down the street. And they're mapping the streets for more autonomous vehicles, right? And so we'll see them. When you see a self-driving car in Chicago, it's mapping the streets. And it's mapping the traffic patterns and all that for future autonomous vehicles. So, and by the way, autonomous vehicles are here. They've just been having little glitches. And so once they work the glitches out. Now, here's the thing. I was thinking about this yesterday when I was in the Uber. Here's how they're going to play it. Mark my words. They're going to be like, Uber's going to be like, now introducing self-driving Uber, blah, blah, blah. And people are going to be like, people not going to do it.
Yeah.
So then, for me to get from the airport to my home, it's about a $35, give or take, $35 ride. What they're going to do is they're going to say, Mr. Harris, if you try out our autonomous vehicle, we'll give it to you for $25. Now, how many times are they going to do that before I take it? Now, for those of us who have choice and make money, I might be like, I ain't doing it. I want a human being behind the wheel who is co-piloting an artificially intelligent vehicle. Like yesterday, like I was in a vehicle that was being co-piloted by artificial intelligence. Let's be clear, okay? So I might say I want that. I want the human being, right? But if you are crunched financially and you need to get from your house to the grocery store and back, and the autonomous vehicle is 25% less, what you think you doing? Yeah. So the same folks who are like, I would never, their finances are going to force them. I mean, is this making sense to you? And once the finances forces the majority, because the majority have financial issues, what do you think is going to happen to that industry? So now here's an industry, Uber drivers, where you could generate at choice 6 figures. And I believe in the next 3 to 5 years, it may completely disappear. Whew. Trucking, taxis, Ubers, Lyft, DoorDash, Uber Eats. Like, think about the number of people right now who are making money Instacart. At what point in an artificially intelligent world would you need a human being to go pick the groceries off the shelf when they're always in the same spot? Who can learn? And by the way, think about it. The human being that's in those stores all the time can do it real fast. But who do you think can do it faster in the future? The robot that can actually play out an algorithm for how to get to the store the fastest. Put it all in a boom, you know what I mean? And then there'll be a human likely for a little while, that then takes it, quality checks a few of them, and then walks it to the autonomous vehicle. Right? Puts it in the autonomous vehicle, likely in the trunk. The customer will have to come out and put the code in the trunk, open it, and take their bags out. Yeah. This ain't like Jetson stuff. This is like 3 to 5 years. Already in the Texas, like the Dallas-Fort Worth area, there are drone drops for food. This is happening right now. Where if you open up your app, you're in Dallas-Fort Worth, and you live in a neighborhood that's like fairly wide open, like you have a bigger backyard, et cetera, because they're doing their pilots in areas where it's easier for the artificial intelligent drone to navigate where it should be. And what it's doing is it's using the device of the person to actually pinpoint where it should drop it. I love you guys. I do. That's why we had this conversation this morning. I hope that this has, in some ways, really supported you in thinking about what comes next. Next week, we'll talk about, so then now what, right? So like, what do we do? Like, how do we begin? And you already know a portion of that's going to have to do with goal setting. Like, it's, now it's time to set goals. Thank you for watching Inspirational Perspective. If you love this show and you want to see more content like this, you can go right here. And if you like this subject and you want to see much more content that we have available for you, just click the button here. As always, thanks for watching. Be sure to watch the show live, 7 a.m. every Sunday morning on WBON Radio, or you can catch it right here on YouTube or Facebook.com/Coach Linnell Harris. Be sure to hit that like button. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe so we can get more content just like this to you.